Sorry about that. All right. So we were saying that the same way we put on tefillin, we put it on while we're standing up. Also, we remove them while standing up, and we remove them in reversed order. So we first unwrap the straps on the finger, then we remove the head tefillin, wrap them up, put them away, and then we remove the arm tefillin and wrap them up and put them away. And I think that's where we left off. That was the middle of
Rabbi,
20.
what's the significance of standing up?
The respect. Showing respect to the mitzvah.
It's easier with the straps too.
And sorry?
It's easier with the strap. It doesn't fall to the floor.
Okay, yeah. It probably is easier to unwrap it while standing up as well. But that's not necessarily is the halacha designed to be easy. Right? Could be, sometimes it is. Now, another thing is that we don't take off the tefillin when the Sefer Torah is out. So if it's a day where they read the Torah and the Torah is out, because it's also not respectful. So if you need to, let's say a certain reason, I know someone has to go, they should step out of the room while they take off the tefillin. We also don't take off the tefillin in front of one's rabbi, a primary teacher. Today, our primary teachers are really books, sforim. But there's it's also not respectful. Okay, 21. And we're going to probably just, rather than read inside and translate, we're going to summarize it because a long chapter is not practically relevant for everyone in the class. So we're just going to go through quickly, finish the chapter. Now, we put our tefillin away in the bags. They should have special bags. And we put it in a way that we know to take the arm tefillin out first the next day. And that's what we do. And we shouldn't put either tefillin on top of each other. Right? You can't put the head one on top of the hand because you need to take the hand one out first. And you can't put the hand one on top of the head because the head one is more holy. So we put them side by side. We need to have a bag that is large enough, is the right shape. They can put the tefillin next to each other side by side. Now, the next thing is, again, I apologize, sorry, just one more moment. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Next. Now, if you don't have any tefillin, the person comes to shul, and whatever reason, they don't have any tefillin available. And he's got two choices. He can either daven with the minyan, with the congregation without tefillin, or he can wait until after davening and borrow someone else's tefillin. That's his dilemma. It's one or the other. So if he has time to daven, there's still time because he has to daven the morning service before midday. So if there's still time to daven afterwards, then he should wait until afterwards. Having tefillin is more important than davening with the congregation. Okay, so that is more important. However, if there's not going to be time, then he davens then and he'll put on tefillin afterwards, because although the ideal time to put on tefillin is during the morning service, I don't know it's the right plug. No. But really, you have the entire day to do it. Okay, 23. Now, to put on tefillin requires a clean body. So that means a person They can't pass the wind. They can't, so if there's someone who's having a health issue, let's say there's unexpected diarrhea or something like that, then they're exempt from tefillin at that moment. Likewise, if a person has another illness and it causes pain when he puts on the tefillin, maybe has some type of let's say very bad skin rash or something, so then also he would be exempt. So a person needs to have a clean body, and they need to, go into the bathroom beforehand, etc. So 24, in theory, if you have a child and he's now old enough to make sure he has a clean body and not to pass wind of things, then he would put on tefillin. Maybe the fuse, I'm going to check the fuse. So I'm having a problem charging the computer. It's all right. So, but in practice, though, we don't normally have children put on tefillin early, not more than 2 or 3 months. So, Chabad custom, for example, is puts on tefillin, starts putting on tefillin 2 months before their bar mitzvah. Some people have a custom, particularly not to put it on until the day of the bar mitzvah. Some people it's 3 months, some people 1 month. It depends. And goes on the side. So that's what happens. But from bar mitzvah onwards, they're for sure obligated, and there's different customs of how soon beforehand you would start putting it on to learn and to be ready. All right. Now, just as we had a difference of custom in respect to the brachas, in 25 we're going to discuss Chol HaMoed. So, just a reminder, Chol HaMoed are the intermediate days of a festival. So let's say we have Sukkot coming up, and we have 2 days Yom Tov at the beginning. Then we have 4 days of Chol HaMoed, and then we have 2 days Yom Tov at the end. So these 4 intermediate days, they're part weekday and they're part festival. So do we put on tefillin or not? So there's difference of custom. Now there are some places that don't put them on. Chabad custom is not to put them on, but there are some places that they do put them on. But generally speaking, those who do wear them on Chol HaMoed don't make a bracha. It's like, we'll say 90% of people who do wear tefillin Chol HaMoed don't say the bracha when they put them on Chol HaMoed, because it's of the festival aspect. Yeah. Now, even if we're not making a bracha, we still shouldn't interrupt in between. Okay. All right. 26. Tefillin that
I
have
thought we just did 20.
Sorry?
We just did 20.
No, just at 25.
You did already all the way?
Yeah. So 26.
I thought we talked about the film.
After, it's 26.
I'm sorry. Okay, I was.
It's okay. It's okay. Tefillin have a cheskes kashrus. So not an exact translation in English. So let's define the term. So cheskes kashrus means we've checked it. It was kosher, and now it's sometime afterwards. So unless something happened, it retains a presumption that it's kosher. That's what a chesed kashrus is. In other words, once we have ascertained, we're sure that they are kosher. So they have to be, that definite discovery has to be made first. Once we know for sure they're kosher, unless something happens to them, and we're going to talk about the type of things that could happen, but unless there's a reason to suspect otherwise, they retain a presumption that they're kosher. And that's what a cheskes kasher says. There's this presumption that tefillin are kosher. So tefillin that have that, as long as the bias, the box, and again, not talking about the plastic protective box, not the actual box of the tefillin itself, as long as they are whole and undamaged, they always retain that presumption of kashrus, even though you can't see the parchments inside. So if the tefillin got wet, God forbid, then there would be reason to suspect that the parchments inside got damaged because, they're handwritten with ink on parchment, and water damages these things, makes the ink come off and different things. But if they were not exposed to the elements, not extreme hot, not extreme cold, not to water, so as long as the boxes are whole, the batim are whole, we have a presumption that the parchments are also good. Because there's no real reason to think otherwise. Nevertheless, it's appropriate to check them. Why? Because even if they didn't get wet, the fact is we sweat. People wear tefillin, they sweat. Some people sweat more, some people sweat. Right? A lot of people here in the class here in Florida, it's rather humid. So not only makes you sweat more, but there's also humidity in the air. So it's good to check it. Now, when we say that it always technically does not have to be checked, that's when you're using them regularly. Because when you use it regularly, they're taken out to air. They're out of their bags. They're being used. If they weren't used regularly, they'll just put in the bags for an extended period of time. Then you need to check it twice every 7 years. And the prevalent custom is that even when you do use it regularly, and it doesn't require checking, the custom to try and get it checked twice every 7 years anyway. Can you check the fuse? All right, so that's so they shouldn't get ruined. If the box tore, there's some damage to the box, now you have to check the parchments as well. Can't just fix the box. Yeah, Susan.
When did this custom start of wearing tefillin?
Well, the obligation to wear tefillin is from Mount Sinai.
But what year did the Jews start doing it?
So this is going to be Rosh Hashanah 5,740. Sorry, in April, 5,784.
Right.
And the Torah was given the year 2,448. So it's just under 3,500 years.
Okay, thank you.
That's when we got the mitzvah of tefillin. So that is also if the stitching came undone. So even though the boxes weren't damaged, but the stitching came undone, then you need to check the parchments as well. Now let's say it came undone and you just sewed it up. Yeah, don't worry about that one. Just and that's yeah. All right. Good. Sorry about that. We've been trying to work out how to charge this computer, new computer. Just thank God. Just got it charging again before so we're not going to disappear in the middle of the class. Okay. So right. So if the stitching came undone, and you don't know how to check, there's no one around that knows how to check it wherever you are, and so you stitch it back up, then you can use it, but you don't make a bracha anymore until it gets checked properly. So that's the plan. Yeah, David.
Is that meant to be upsetting?
Yeah, I think the confusion Susan's asking about, because you use the word the custom. So you're talking about the custom of checking the tefillin, and she thought the custom of wearing the tefillin was custom.
So I didn't hear you. Let me try a little bit louder. I'm just thinking it was my speakers. Maybe it's me.
Susan heard you use the word custom, so she thought you were talking about wearing tefillin as a custom, and you were saying the word custom regarding checking the tefillin.
Oh, okay, could be. So just to clarify, we're talking about putting on tefillin was from the time of the Torah, but we're discussing the custom of checking the tefillin. Now, if you're asking about that, so I mean, I couldn't say exactly when, but let's say the custom of checking them twice every 7 years, whether needed or not, this end of Talmud post just after Talmud. So you're talking about 1600 years, something like that.
Why is it 7 years? Who just pulled the number out of the air? Or?
No, well, the idea, if it's not used regularly, of twice every 7 years, in other words, we say, approximately the parchment, I guess, if it's not aired properly, it starts to decay. And so I'm going to say it starts damaging, let's say, after 5 years. So by saying twice every 7 years, every 3.5 years, it keeps you ahead of the game. Obviously, when we say approximately 5 years, depends on the conditions. The drier the environment, less humid, the longer it will keep. Right. So, for example, without getting too off the topic, let's say, for example, the Cairo Geniza. There was a very famous. They discovered there was a shul, there was a synagogue in Cairo that the old things, because Isidurim and old fill and different things, they meant to bury, meant to put them away somewhere respectfully. And there was in the attic of the synagogue, they stored the old things, and there were things that had been there. Some of the things were over 1,000 years old. And they've just been sitting there. So, for an example, you may have seen in a book, various books, a signature of the Rambam, like a copy of the Rambam signature. So that was found on a document in this, right? The picture that the Rambam drew of the menorah, of the straight branches, that's also from the Cairo Geniza. That's from the Rambam's own handwriting. So they found documents, they found things in there that were actually handwritten manuscripts by the Rambam himself. It was all kinds of treasures. So some of it got smuggled out, but then the Egyptian government stopped them taking things. Unfortunately, after the establishment of the State of Israel, the Egyptian people burnt down the shul. So most of the stuff was destroyed, unfortunately. A lot of it, even what they didn't take out, a lot of it was filmed in microfilm. And so it's most of it is available in some form or another. Geniza. It's in that's around. Yeah, David.
Yeah, as far as the number 7, I'm guessing that they probably consulted ink experts and parchment experts.
Yeah.
And together they came up with that number.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Let's say it's approximately 5 years. And by checking it every 3.5 years, twice 7 years, keeps you ahead of the game. So I just mentioned the Cairo Geniza. Why did things stay preserved for so long? Because it was a very dry, non-damp environment. So things lasted longer. Now, just because they lasted longer doesn't mean there weren't some cracks and some damage in the writing, which would have ruined the tefillin. but they're able to be there. But in a humid environment, let's say like Florida as an example, things wouldn't last anywhere near as long, written on parchment with ink. And so tefillin probably have to be checked more often or touched up more often. So you don't want to open them up too often, because opening them up too often can also cause damage, right? The more you handle it, the more wear and tear. But in concept, in a humid environment like Florida, they need to be touched up. As long as you keep touching it up, you stay ahead of the game before it gets to, I don't want to say rot's not really the word I'm looking for, but before it gets.
And how do you dispose of tefillin that's been damaged so badly?
So they if disposed, they get buried. They bury them in a Jewish cemetery. So sometimes it's called geniza, which means hidden away. You put it away somewhere respectful. So in this case, in Cairo, for example, they had an attic in the shul where they stored the old things respectfully. Sometimes it's called shamus. Shamus literally means names, because they stored away the things that have Hashem's name in it. That's where the term came from. But ultimately, they're stored wherever they are, wherever it happens to be for a period of time. Then after that, they're buried. And they get buried in the cemetery. And in many Jewish cemeteries, not that I suggest you spend all day in a cemetery looking at the plaques and the monuments and the various things, but if you did walk around, you'll often notice in many cemeteries there'll be some type of tombstone or plaque, and it's mentioning that he is buried, as Torah scrolls or different things, and so that's how I don't like to say the word disposed of. It's not really perhaps a respectful way to mention it. So those things that have Hashem's name, they need to be buried. Other things that, let's say it's not holy in itself, but it was used for a mitzvah. So let's say, for an example, a broken shofar. The same person had a shofar they used for a mitzvah blow on Rosh Hashanah. So it broke, and you're gonna, there's no purpose to have it anymore. And as a matter of fact, it's good to get rid of, because someone might not notice it's got a big crack in it, and they might use it for the shofar blowing and not fulfill the obligation because it was no good. And so that it's not holy per se, it doesn't have to go to shamus, but if it was used for a mitzvah, then you should dispose it respectfully. So what people do, those kind of things, they double wrap it. They don't put it straight in the garbage. We put it in one bag, let's say a shopping bag, put that in another shopping bag, and then when it's double wrapped, then they put it in the garbage, and that way it's not like with last week's old cholent, it's a little more respectful.
Rabbi, is that a good way?
Okay.
Is that a good way to get rid of old Jewish press?
Sorry?
Is that a good way to get rid of old Jewish press?
Jewish press? Well, I guess, the Jewish press is it's something else, because you do actually have divrei Torah. You have a column that'll be about the week's parsha, and then you have other columns that certainly do not need to be disposed of respectfully, and everything in between. So it's maybe that's the best way. I don't know.
A better word than rot. A better word than rot is deteriorate.
Yeah, deteriorating. That's thank you. Chapter 11, Siman Yud Aleph, Hilchos Mezuzah, the laws of Mezuzah. And Aleph, mitzvahs asay, there's a positive mitzvah. It's one of the 248 positive mitzvahs. So we have 613 mitzvahs in the Torah, 248 positive mitzvahs, in other words, do something, and 365, I don't want to say negative mitzvahs, because it makes it sound like it's something negative. They're also positive. But things we don't do, right? Things to refrain from. So it's a mitzvah asay, it's a positive, it's a do mitzvah. Likboi mezuzah b'chol Pesach, to put up a mezuzah on every door. Now I'm just going to clarify what I mean by door. So there's essentially 10 conditions to make a room obligated to have a mezuzah. 1, it has to be 4 amos square. So 4 amos is approximately 6 feet. It's not exact, but approximately 6 feet square. It has to have 2 doorposts, at least to say with the bracha, put up in the bracha. We're gonna when we get through, we're gonna see that if we have a right doorpost, we'll say it with, we'll put a mezuzah without a bracha. But in the ideal world, to be totally obligated, you need 2 doorposts, a lintel, so the cross beam. The room has to have a ceiling. It has to have doors, and again, if it has 2 doorposts and a lintel without a door, we normally put a mezuzah without a bracha. But to have to be obligated with a bracha, it needs to have a door. The doorway has to be at least 10 tefachim high. This is a tefach, so it's not very high. So it has to be at least, let's say it's the belly button of an average person. Okay, although that's a ridiculous thing to say average person, because probably every person in this year is a different height. But, let's say approximately 40 inches. It has to be approximately 40 inches high, which is not a very high doorway. But that's the minimum. Okay, it has to be used for not totally dedicated to Hashem. So if you had a building, so let's say you had a room where people only davened. So I'm not going to say shul, because in many of our shuls we have other things. We'll have a kiddush, so people will eat there. There could be other activities. It could be sometimes as a social activity. So it's used for other things. But if there was a place where all people did was daven, that's it. You walk in that room, you daven, nothing else. Then technically it doesn't need a mezuzah, because it's not designed for you to live there. It's not designated for people to use. It's like God's room. So it also has to be a dwelling place for people. So not something that's designated for animals. It has to be a dignified usage, meaning not a bathroom. Today all diapers are pretty much disposable. Most people today never heard of diapers that you wash. But for those of us who remember, so if you had small children at home and you used to wash diapers, then also the laundry would be considered the same as a bathroom in that case. So rooms for things like that, or a bathroom, even not just, a washing bathroom. That's also does not need a mezuzah. And it has to be a permanent dwelling. So when we say permanent, it doesn't mean it has to last for 6,000 years, but, not like a sukkah. Sukkah we put up for a week. Take it down. It's not or a tent. RV, a caravan, type motorhome. So some people live in them or either permanently or for the next year or something. They travel around the world. So if it's something they're going to live in regularly for over a month, more than a month, then you would put a mezuzah on the door. But if it's something, you keep it parked in your side of your house and you go away for a weekend here and, 2 months later, you go for another few days there, something like that, then it would not require mezuzah because it's not a permanent residence. It's only temporary. So they're the requirements. They're the general requirements So your regular house,
Yeah, I'm
your regular
fine.
house.
I'm doing my here.
Sorry. No? Okay. So needs to have, so again, the room needs to be at least 6 by 6 square. Needs to have a ceiling, needs to have 2 doorposts, a lintel, right? A door. The doorway has to be at least 40 inches high. It's a dwelling place for people of dignified usage, and it's a permanent dwelling. Yes, David.
When you say 6 by 6, that's 36 square feet. Does it mean it could be like 8 by 4? Or
Sorry?
Could it be 8 by 4? Could it be another dimension?
Yes. Well,
As long as it's 36 square.
yes and no. Is that a good Jewish answer?
Yeah.
So for a bracha, it has to be at least 6 by 6, length and width. To put up without a bracha will be, even if it's that square footage, might be 1 foot wide and, really long, then you would put up without a bracha.
But that's feet or amot?
Well, 4 by 4 amos, which is
4 by 4
approximately
amos.
6 by
Okay.
feet, 6 by 6 feet. So, as we learn the chapter, we'll see there's with a bracha and without a bracha. So what you'll find is in many homes today, there'll be places with a bracha and without a bracha. So your front door, you have the 2 doorposts and a lintel and a doorway. In your home, you may have a room that there's no door. Or you might have a walk-in robe, a large walk-in robe, which is more than 6 by 6, but it's it's not really all, these different things. So you end up, you'll make 1 bracha on the main door, and you put up on all the places. So it's a mitzvah, positive mitzvah, to put up a mezuzah on every doorway. Even if you have many rooms in your house, and each room has many doors, and they're all used for going in and out. Nevertheless, yet you normally only use 1, right? Let's say each room has 5 doors, and normally you just use 1 of them. That's your regular door. Nevertheless, they're all obligated in a mezuzah because they could be used. They are regular doors. Yes, Susan.
Okay, in 770, is there a mezuzah on every door in that entire place?
I didn't check, but I presume so. Every room is going to have
I'm just curious. I'm just curious. But what you're saying, you have to have 1 on every door.
Every door.
Every room.
So my wife grew up in a house. So Rabbi Smith also, grew up there. It had 87 mezuzahs. Right. Ironically, they had such a large house because it was the only house her grandfather could afford. What happened is when they got married, he had a law firm, and they were renting a house, and so he had to have 2 premises, 1 for the law firm and 1 for the house. And there was this big house for sale. No one wanted it because it was too big. And he saw the way it was set up and its size. He could have his law firm in one part and live in the other part, and it was cheaper than having 2 places because no one wanted this place. So that's what happened. But it had 87 mezuzahs. I was never there. They were already weren't living there anymore when I joined the family. But
where was that?
So you can have a house needs even a private house with 87 mezuzahs. So was someone asking something? So you can end up with a lot of mezuzahs.
Nobody wanted the place because they had to buy all those mezuzahs.
Yeah, man. No, that's what happened. Well, when I first got married, they had some of those mezuzahs spare. So my first mezuzahs were from that house. That's they when they wherever they moved after that, they didn't have anywhere near as many mezuzahs. But they've all, I think, all been given out and shared with people a long time ago. So that's the idea. So even if you have many doorways in a house, each doorway, again, not the bathroom, not the various things, but the rooms that are used for human use, they all need a mezuzah. Va'afilu im nismatu hidurim bein hasarach atarak pesach echad. Now, even if there's less people live in the house, and you now only require one door, because what happened is I had 34 bedrooms for my 300 children. Yeah, figuratively, just as an example, I only have 11 children. That's not that many, not 300, and they all moved out. Right, last Shabbos, we only had 2 kids at home. Well, 3 kids at home, actually. 3 kids at home, but we had 1 week, there was only 1 kid at home. The rest were in camp or got married kids, Baruch Hashem. So what happened? You only need 1 door now. You take 1 door, go into your room, finish. You don't use the rest. The Kol Mokim, nevertheless, Kulam Chayovim, they still need mezuzahs, even though you're not actively using them. However, Im yesh eze pesach she'ena asoy, you have a doorway that is not used. The hachnis derech shom eze masa lefrokim. It's only used for deliveries once in a while. V'yesham pesach ach nisav yitzia, and there's another door that you go in and out. As a pesach l'sibrak lahachnis masois potter. So let's give an example. Sometimes you have you see it sometimes in warehouses. They have this like a big garage door, and in it is a smaller door. And people go in and out of the smaller door. And when they have the big delivery, they open up the big garage door. So if they're both used regularly, then you need mezuzahs on both. But let's say you get a delivery, you open up this big garage door like once every 6 months. And you never use it. Everyone uses the regular door. That's how people go in and out. People don't need to go in and out this garage door because it's a regular door. So then only the regular door would need mezuzah. But so again, the exact circumstances of a person's door use is going to be different for each individual. So when in doubt, ask your local competent Orthodox rabbi, and to let you know. That's a general principle. Okay. Base number 2. Gam sharichat seiros. Now, not only doors of the house, but also gates of courtyards. Now, today we don't really have courtyards, but I think if you sort of picture, in Talmudic times, they lived similar to, I guess, like Asian houses. It's like sort of Eastern culture. And there's a courtyard, and then there's houses inside or buildings inside the courtyard. So there's a walled courtyard with a proper door. So the door to the courtyard also requires a mezuzah. Mavois, and if they had doorways of alleys, right? So they used to have for security, they had houses sharing like a little alley, and they closed it. So that would be similar to maybe some gated estates today. The gated estates today normally have like a door that opens. There's no crossbeam. The gate opens like a sliding door, so it doesn't need mezuzah. But if you had a proper door, big gateway, then it would need mezuzah. For arios, and even walls of cities. So they used to have walled cities, they were fortified. Then you had big gates that you opened. So the gateway had a doorpost and a crossbeam. So they would need mezuzah. Medinois, and even if there was a gate into the country. So many people, if you've been to Israel, you see the giant mezuzahs they have at the big Ben Gurion airport. Right? So the gateway into the country.
There's gates between Jordan and Israel and other countries.
Yeah, so if it's a proper gate, then it needs a mezuzah. Chayavim b'mezuzah, all those things are obligated for a mezuzah. Shnama says, Obisharecha, and your gates. So the mitzvah is to put a mezuzah on your houses and your gates. Okay. Gimel, number 3. The tzarech l'kava b'min hanichnas. You put it up on the right side when you enter. So if you think about your front door, as you enter the house, it's on the right side as you enter, right? Because like anything, if you say it's left or right, it depends which way you're facing. So the way we judge it is as you enter the house. Vim cover b'smoil, and if a person puts it up on the left side, b'sula, it's no good. They are not fulfilling the mitzvah.
But
Rabbi, yeah.
In our shul, the mezuzah that we go in is on the left side. It's a double door.
Yeah.
On the left side is the mezuzah to go in to the shul itself, to the where the Torah is and the seats and all that. You
sure it's okay? I'll come to that. Let me finish this thing, and I'll tell what it might possibly be. The sarach lasira the kaba min aleha, and so if it's on the wrong side, you have to take it down, put it back up on the right side, and make a new bracha. And there's no difference in this for a right-handed person or left-handed person, right? Because tefillin, we said you change sides depending if you're right-handed or left-handed. You put on your weaker arm, but by mezuzah it doesn't make a difference. Now, just what to back to what Ben said, possibly again without being in the shul, so I didn't see it. So theoretically, it might be an error, but what I'm presuming it is that there's an outer room and an inner room.
Yeah, the outer room from the outside door there is a big room. Yeah, and then from there. So
when you have two rooms, the question is, which room is the main room you enter? Like if you go from room to room, then wherever you put it, it's going to be on the right going to one room and the left going the other room. So you put it on the right of the main room. Now, what's considered the main room? So one of the definitions is the way the door opens into. The room the door opens into, so when you open your house, the door opens in.
Yeah.
So it could be because of the way the doors go. Now,
the doors when you go into the prayer area, into the I don't know what you call it, the hall, not the hall, Echal.
Yeah, the vestibule.
The door open towards you when you go in.
Right, so that's why they've done it. Now, I've got to say, I don't want to criticize anyone, particularly online, when they're not here to say it.
No, there must
I'm not sure it's so simple. I'm not sure it's so simple in those cases because although it's true for other rooms, let's say a room in my house.
Yeah.
So my bedroom, the door opens inwards and there's a hallway on the other side. So the door opens inwards. That shows that the room is the main place. In public areas today, where the doors open outwards from a shul, that's because of fire regulations. It's not because the room is more important than the other.
I see. Okay.
So I'm not sure. So again, I never spoke to the person who's put mezuzah. It was 1 second. It may be a very good reason why they put mezuzah in that case that I'm not aware of because I didn't see it.
Yeah,
I'm imagining it's because of the way the doors open, but I would venture to say that in such a case, the doors opening outwards is not because the outer room is more important. The inner room is more important. The doors open outwards because of fire regulations.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so it's probably because they've looked in the Shulchan Aruch, it says you look at the door, it's possibly someone made an error. But again, there may be another factor that I'm not aware of because I haven't seen it.
I will ask, yeah.
Rabbi, what I was going to say, in my shul, as you're coming in from the outside, the doors do open out, and the mezuzah is on the right.
Yeah.
Now, when you go into the main sanctuary, because you're in the hallway, the doors open out to you, because yes, it is a fire hazard, but the mezuzah is on the left, but when you're leaving the sanctuary into the hallway, it is on the right.
Yes.
Right, that's what it is by us, yeah.
That's what it is, Ben. There's two reasons for that. And as the rabbi said, it is a fire hazard to have the doors open in on the main sanctuary, because you're going to have a big problem, people fighting to get out. This way, when they open in the hallway, you have more room and access to leave the sanctuary and the hallway to the outside.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's I imagine that's the factors, but again, I didn't see it, so I can't say if there's an additional factor that makes that makes a difference. Okay, but if we leave aside uncertain cases, generally speaking, we always put it's on the right when you enter the room. On the right when you enter the room. Dalet, number 4. Shnei batim. You got 2 houses. And each one of them has a doorway which opens to the public domain, let's say the street or a courtyard. And there's a partition, a fence between them, and there's also a door, a gate. So we let's just make up an example. Let's say you have in a townhouse, so they both open to a common area, and there's a fence. There's some type of fence between them in the front. They've both got a front yard, fenced in front yard, and there's also a gate between the two of them. So on the surface, they're equal. 2 identical courts. It's not like it's from the street coming to the house. You understand, oh, I'm coming into the house. Between these 2 houses, there's nothing that makes one more important or more dominant than the other. So so therefore it's not clear which side do you put the mezuzah, which one you consider going in. So which side is the right? So what we do is what we just discussed. We go after the hinge, essentially. What does that mean? Peirush. Whichever place that the hinges are set up, that the door opens into it opens into that room or into that house. This is the main one. That's the main place. And therefore you put it on the right of that place. So we go after the way the hinges go. Now, this is only when they're equal. Neither one has priority over the other. But if one of them is the primary one, it's the main usage one. In that case, you don't go after the hinges. We don't care which way the door opens. Rather, we put the mezuzah on the right as you enter the room. That's the primary usage. Even though the doors open the other way. And this is why I said, again, without discussing Ben's case in particular, because I didn't see the building and there could be other factors. But if you had just a simple case, a building's a rectangle, right? And you enter a synagogue building is a rectangle, and you walk in, you got a small vestibule like entrance hall, and then you got a main shul is through another door. And even though the doors open outwards into the hallway, but the primary usage between those two rooms is not the hallway. The primary usage is the shul. But again, that may not be the case. Could be in this shul, all their classes are in the hallway, and the kiddush is in the hallway, and maybe they even have weekday services in the hallway because it's smaller, and they only use the big shul on Shabbos and Yom Tov. So there could be lots of other factors. But generally, when we say that it depends which way the door goes, that's when the two rooms are of relatively equal importance, and the door going in tips the scale. But if one room is clearly the more important room, the room of the primary usage, then it's irrelevant which way the doors go. Okay. Hey, number 5, the koimo. So where on the door frame do you actually put up the mezuzah? Right. So now that we've established you put on the right side, but where on the right side? So we say metchilas shalisha elyon al goyva shar. Now we put it on the bottom of the top third. So in other words, 2/3 up. 2/3 up the doorway. If you put it higher than this, it's still good. As long as it's at least one tefach, one fist from the lintel, from the crossbeam. So it can't be too high. It has to be at least this distance from the top of the doorway. So but ideally at the bottom of the top third, so just above 2/3 high. If you put it too low, you put it lower than 2/3 up the doorway. You have to take it off, put it back up properly, and make a bracha again. And if you put it in the if you put it in the top, fist, the top section of the doorway, also Yisira Gam came Kikaroi, then you also have to take it off and put it back on properly. But you don't have to say another bracha. Yeah, so it says you have a question.
Okay, I live in an Orthodox house.
Yeah.
The people those are my landlords. There was an opening, like a garage opening, and there was a mezuzah there, but they closed it up with some wood. There is now a gate that I open up to come into like a courtyard, a gate. But there's not a top beam, but it has the top of the gate. So is there supposed to be a mezuzah on that gate?
If there's no cross beam,
right,
meaning once you open the gate, there's nothing going across,
right?
Then it doesn't need a mezuzah.
Okay.
There's no problem. And likewise, you mentioned the garage that they closed off the door, they boarded it up.
Right.
If it's closed up in a way that it's no longer usable, so in this case they boarded it up. So
right,
until you do physical repairs, you can't open it again. It also no longer needs a mezuzah, even though it looks like a door.
I just went outside. I looked. They took it down. But now there's an entrance in the backyard that there's like a breezeway that I go in and out to the backyard. There's like a patio, and then
does it have two doorposts and a crossbeam? Does it have a ceiling?
Door. It has a ceiling, yes.
Yeah.
But no door.
There's no door, but is it
breezeway. It's like
and
no, there's no door. It's open. It's like an open.
Yeah, so if it's open without it, well, depends on even open, because the doorway can be reasonably wide. So
it's very wide, yes.
Yeah, so it's without seeing it can come, but in theory, 10 amos, which would be
I better ask Rabbi Smith.
Yeah, because if he can see it, or someone local, or or maybe my son, I don't know how far away he is from you, is he's very good with these things. You muted yourself. I can't hear.
I'm about 6 blocks from Rabbi Smith, from his house, so I
okay. All right, so it's
yeah. I never thought about it until we started talking about this. I thought there's no. They originally had them. They boarded up. They took the mezuzah down, but there's another. Okay.
And for those who do live local to Rabbi Smith, I'm gonna be staying there for the beginning of Sukkot, God willing. So it'd be lovely to meet people in person.
Oh. Will you come around and check our mezuzahs?
Maybe. Okay. So yeah, so it looks like that's the time for today. So any other questions before we finish up? No, so wish everyone a wonderful week. And I guess we're not learning next week because it's Rosh Hashanah. So wish everyone a sweet, happy, healthy year for success, fulfillment. And remember, when you're a guest at someone's house on Rosh Hashanah night and you taste the challah, you go, oh, it tastes like it was baked last year. Yeah.
Thank you. Good
Rabbi.
joke. Good joke.
When I was a kid, my mother didn't appreciate that one, so I learned not to say it.
Rabbi.
Yeah.
I saw a quick Devar Torah over Shabbos from Baal Shem Tov. The word for giving half a shekel is machzis a shekel. Machzis means a half. So it's made up of the letters Mem, Ches, Sadik, Yud, Saf. So that's the middle letters of Tzaddik. So the letters that are directly to the right and left of the Tzaddik are Ches and Yud, which spells Chai, which means life. And the letters that are to the end of the word is Mem and Saf, which spells Mace, which means the opposite of life. So the Baal Shem Tov says that the teaching is that if you're close to the Tzaddik, that's life, and if you're far from the Tzaddik, that's the opposite of life.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Have a good week, everybody.
Yeah, yes. A wonderful week and a wonderful year.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Good day, good year.